Attention, all of my elevated content seekers. We believe digital is designed to inspire. Whether it's music, news, entertainment, we believe digital has the content that you don't want to miss. We're bringing you the best in news, entertainment, sports, inspiration, and so much more. Not only are we designed to inspire, but you can advertise with us and reach your target audience now. Got something that you believe in? Well, we believe in you, and we're offering you the opportunity to become a podcaster at We Believe Digital Studios. To become a want to know more? You can contact us at www.webelievedigital.com. And while you're at it, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Roku at We Believe Digital.
Good evening and welcome to Doc and Sock. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, down south. Whenever you're up north in the rest of the country and you refer to Mississippi, you refer to it as down south. The dirty South. A lot of you have gotten away from Mississippi and don't even want to claim it. We realized back during the Industrial Revolution, more black folks were leaving Mississippi than we had soldiers going into Hamburger Hill. And so we now face a situation where Mississippi is ranked almost last in every measurable category that indicates quality of life. And we're going to talk about some of those things today. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, then we want you to share this program with your friends and family, send us stars, and hit the subscribe button. The algorithm depends upon that, and so that we can continue to bring you these kinds of shows. If you're watching us over on YouTube, hit the notification bell, subscribe to the program. TikTok, we are already on that platform and doing extremely well. And so we're on Twitch, Instagram, and we're logging into Fanbase to try to see if we can support Brother Isaac Hayes Jr. I was a big fan of his dad. He had one of those baritone voices, and he could make the room stand up and pay attention. So we want to support Fanbase, and we do support all African-American owned products the best way we can, because quite frankly, black folk are hurting and suffering in this country, and in particularly in Mississippi. Now, my co-host, as always, is a distinguished gentleman from the Mississippi Delta, born on a plantation. He likes to say he moved away early, but he was there long enough for it to affect his mind, for him to have an understanding of what his place was before they finally slid him in a basket and floated him down the Mississippi River. Now, he's one of the most sought after speakers in this country. He can tell you things that he learned. He's book smart, but he's also street smart, having seen some things in his 80 years. And so I'm always grateful to have him as co-host on this show. And Doc, how have you been?
Well, as usual, I've been doing well. And as you indicated earlier, I do a lot of workshops and seminars and speeches here and there, but I keep a low profile. I do my best to be quiet, very quiet, while I'm on television, podcasts, seminars, workshops, until I get around 100 people or less. Then I give them the real news. We don't want to give the facts out as to what folks need to do to defend themselves from unrighteousness. And when I say unrighteousness, I'm talking about the unrighteousness of the politicians, the preachers, and the corporate leaders that are leading people to hell while they're on earth. And that's why on this show, the Doc and Sock Show, we are going to analyze situations in those same areas, politics and economic development, and tell people how they can learn to live in heaven on earth. You
Doc,
think that's possible, sir?
Doc, you make statements and you make me have to go back and listen to it again. I don't believe our ministers are leading people to hell. But that's not their objective. They might not have all of the information about what is right and wrong, but I don't think they're intentionally leading them to hell.
Well, why you say that? Well, why are so many living in hell and catching hell on earth in all 50 states then?
Well, I think that's a part of the condition of the country that we're living in, Doc. And I'll break right now and move on into something very strong about this country. I was looking at the news last night, and Scott Bassett was on the podcast show, and he was delivering a message that I found quite shocking. And I'm sure the rest of the world found it quite shocking as well. And I don't know exactly when Scott got elevated to the position that he now tells the world what America's strategy is going to be in the war in Iran. I mean, what happened to Hegseth and what happened to Rubio? These guys now have been displaced by Scott. And so his message was, quite frankly, that we're going to cut Iran off from the rest of the world in its entirety.
It's going to be just the opposite. Just the opposite. You're going to cut off Iran 100% from America. And then the Russians and the Chinese going to get Iran and give them more economic wherewithal than they could get even if they had peace in their land. The Russians and the Chinese are going to control the world for a while, and it's not going to be for long. That's going to be during our lifetime. And you know, we are old men, but we're going to be here another 25 or 30 years.
Oh, and absolutely.
You're going to see some great things happening in this world in the next 25 or 30 years, and all of them are going to be negative.
African Americans are not looked upon favorably anywhere in the world other than in Africa, in the continent of Africa, in your homeland. We enjoy a certain amount of appreciation and respect for one another. But it appears though the countries that you name, China and Russia and the U.S., may have the same outlook when it comes to Black folk.
Well, they do, but they play against each other. And you find that when the Russians want to do something against some of their peers, some of the Europeans, the Asians or others, when it's bad, human-wise, they blame it on America. Say, America can't say anything about who we kill because they have been killing people for 500 years. And here recently, all the major presidents in America have been killing leaders throughout the country whenever they feel it is necessary, and sometimes when it's not necessary because they do it for economic and political reasons. And I could not understand and see why the leaders in America would want to do the same thing and not expect similar things happening to the folks here in this country.
Well, because we're strong. And when you're a bully and when you're big on the schoolyard, you don't anticipate any recurrence or any reciprocation for your wrongdoing. You're strong enough just to thump that head when you get ready, and everybody just laughs.
Well, there's a way to deal with bullies. In high school, we had a little strategy. You know, I was from the rural area, what we call the country, and we were in a school system in Hinds County with a lot of students from Jackson and what we call the subdivisions of Jackson. And when we dealt with bullies, it was a little different. Being a country boy, since I didn't know much about diplomacy, I would always say these bullies getting too tough on me and my buddies. So we would have a girl to go around behind the gym and beck for them to come, you know, the bullies. And we'd be waiting for the joker and hit them side the head with some, jump on them, kick them real good, and not run. See what criminals do now, they run when they leave a criminal activity, and we'd just walk back on the football field or wherever, just like nothing happened. And those bullies knew exactly who it was, and they would be dealt with you.
And they were not bullies anymore?
Not to you. No. And that's what we have to do. You have to give bullies what they give you, but you do it quicker, smarter, and faster.
Doc, I hope that strategy works. I know that a lot of kids out there are suffering from being bullied. here today in our school system. And so I hope that the parents are listening, and maybe Doc's strategy of how to deal with a bully may be the appropriate one.
It is
But
appropriate. I hate to just be affirmative, but it is appropriate and it works. See, anything that works and make you do better and get your opposition or your opponents away from you, that's what the Lord expects.
the Lord expects that.
Yeah, God, the God of mankind, wants peace. Even though he says there can and should be war in certain situations. And that's what I believe, that you have to look at what the Bible says about things that's going to be giving you the peace and harmony in your life, not do everything in the Bible, because I don't know anyone that knows it all, but there are certain verses that I adhere to and use as a guide. And when it says there's a time for everything under the heavens, the Bible endorses anything that you can do to help yourself while you're alive. Any and everything is better than the Ten Commandments. I told you that some time ago. I've been telling people this for years. If you want to know how to live on earth and live in heaven on earth, you learn what they say in chapter 3, verses 1 through 8 in Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything and a season under the heavens. And the God of mankind approves it. Learn it, folks, and do it. Learn it and do it.
I don't know if God approves all of the hatred and the despair that's going on in the world. I don't think that the Palestinians would say that God's approved what's going over there in their area as they are being displaced from their homeland. I don't know if God would approve the Russia strike in the Ukraine and the devastation that that's creating over there. I don't know if God would approve the situations that we have going on right here in the state of Mississippi.
Well,
We have 4 or 5 people that have been hung in the recent days and recent months and years. And then we have a case now that we're going to get to very shortly concerning Mr. Nolan Wells. But back to your statement about God approval, I do not believe that God has favor or he approves or ordains the things that man is doing.
oh, yes, he most certainly does. Because the Lord, oh, God of mankind. See, you say the Lord, and a lot of time when you say the Lord, a lot of people think you might be talking about Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ had nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fairness and the God of mankind that put people together, create disharmony, and give you a chance to reap what you sow. If you are being bullied, if you're being bombed, if your leaders are being killed, that is just a season, a time in the history of your life. And if you wake up one day and say, I'm going to use the old Henderson strategy where I get it behind the gym, where he's going willingly by himself and give him some justice, and he or she will leave you alone, that's what the God of mankind expects. I'm not talking about Jesus, and I'm not talking about those folks that wrote that Bible, because those were not Jesus-focused people. They were politicians and others that were trying to make a living, and especially those revised versions that we've been talking about for years. Those guys were not sincere. They were looking out for their special interests. Read King James Version, and you heard me say version. That means his opinion about something.
Well, Doc, we're going to have to leave this alone because I know that we're going to be upsetting many out here in our viewers and our audiences all around the world, because, religion is one of the most sacred concepts that you have, and people will actually, most wars were fought over some difficulty or differences in religion. And so that's a subject that we take very seriously, and yet we got to shed some light on it because the religions of the world have been very active in criminal activity. Even the slave trade in the very beginning, was authorized and ordained by the Catholic Church
Of
to
course.
go into Africa and get the laborers that you need.
And the good thing about it, it was signed off by the Pope at the time. So don't nobody tell me that religion is the cure-all for any problem you have. It is not. It is a political and social document, or what I call movement, that is designed to generate economic power from the top with a crumb coming down to the bottom as far as the leadership and the memberships are concerned. There are a lot of different religions. In America, there are about 4,500 different religions. Some of them don't have but 2 or 3 members. Others have 2 or 3 million, and on and on. It's a ridiculous system that's then caused a lot of wars and rumors of wars, and that's where most of the wars start, with religious ideas and economic ideas, those 2 things.
So what do you say to the biblical concept that you ought to give 1/10 of everything that you earn to the church?
Well, now, I believe you're supposed to do that, but you're supposed to pay yourself the first 10%. If you give your first 10% to some church and they're not doing anything, you're not going to have anything to help you when you have a situation where you're going to need support. I teach one that you ought to get whatever resources you have. If you have a job, if you find some money, if you make some, pay yourself the first 10%. Use it for yourself, your family, and your community. Then you pay 10% to any organization or institution that's providing the goods and services and positive resources for the membership. If it's not a membership in a church, you give it to a community organization that's setting up tutorial programs for the people that need it, that's helping the seniors and the people with mental illnesses, helping find homes and building homes for people that are homeless. If the church is not doing it, you don't give them not 1 penny. Even though the preachers don't like me to say this, they say, man, we got to pay the bills. Well, that's true. You get there and get you another job then, like you used to do 40 and 50 years ago, and you pay the bills with that. But I don't care about being criticized, because I know I'm right and I'm following the biblical principle in the chapter that I mentioned in Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8.
All right, Doc, let's shift gears. Let's move on here to what's going on in the Nolan Wells case. I saw the Ann Grace show just an hour or so ago, and they said there was some new developments in the case, that the FBI is finally gotten involved in this case. And the second autopsy is to continue to explain that they didn't have the vital parts necessary to conduct an autopsy. And so let me give our viewers context. There was a young man in Mississippi, Nolan Wells, 19 years old, that went out on the 4th of July with his Caucasian friends on an island in Mississippi. Everybody had a great time, but Mr. Wells did not come home. His body was found floating in the Gulf Coast 2 days later, on July 6th. And so Mr. Wells, now no cause of his death has been explained to the public and the viewers and the family for over 30 days. Get that? And so the family requested that even though the state of Mississippi had done an autopsy and the medical examiners had made their report, of which they did not publish, no one knows what's in it, but the family, with the help of Tyler Perry, Al Sharpton, Kaepernick, and others, were able to send the body to Washington, D.C. for a second autopsy. Upon arrival in D.C., it was discovered that vital organs were missing from the body. The throat, part of the throat was missing from the body. And so we cannot say today what has happened to this young man, but it's blowing this city, this state, tearing it apart. Because once again, Mississippi is being played in all over the national media as an unsafe place for Black boys to be. And Doc, you and I both grew up in Mississippi, and we have some stories that we could share with our viewers. But Nolan Wells' case is getting national attention. And I didn't know that the medical examiner was allowed to take organs from a body without the family's consent.
Well, that is nothing new. It has always been the case. In most cases, they didn't do autopsies. You just found yourself dead or died from what they call natural cause and buried the person. An autopsy was something for the middle class or rich folks. What poor person you know when you were coming on in the 40s, 50s, and early 60s had money for an autopsy? The state wasn't going to even recognize that you were dead. So naturally, they weren't going to do it. They had a segregated system in Mississippi, the South in the nation. So if you didn't go and have a lot of money to expose what was happening to your folks, they found you and buried you like they do in some parts of the Mississippi today in other states. They just bury you somewhere. Might not even tell your relatives, even though they might have the information as to where they are.
You're talking about a Black experience.
Of course. And same with poor white folks. See, everything that happened to poor Blacks happens to the poor whites. But people don't like to talk about that. Everybody I know think that the poor whites are just so in love with being white that they don't think they have any rights at all. But that's not the case. But the fact is, most poor whites won't say anything in public because they don't want to be characterized as a Black person lover. So they are secretive with their ideas and information. And if you get a small group together, you'll be surprised at what their problems are. Affordability, education, health care, and jobs. Well, same as other folks.
Let's talk about poor whites and Blacks in Mississippi. We'll get back to the Nolan Wells case. It has been determined that there were some markings on the back of his skull that is causing everybody to wonder if something happened to Mr. Wells. And so we are going to continue to follow this case. This is one that we have to, as a state and as a country, we have to bring this into focus, and we have to say what happened to this young man. You just cannot go out on the 4th of July and don't come home. That cannot happen. So y'all, we're going to stay on this case as the world is staying on this case. I don't care what network you look at, they're talking about the Nolan Wells case. Judge Carlos Moore out of Atlanta is talking about the Nolan Wells case. I don't hear Black leaders in Mississippi saying much about the Nolan Wells case. I don't hear the clergy saying much about it. I don't hear our elected officials saying a lot about it. Is it that we are afraid to say something?
Well, we are suffering so much from the lack of economic parity, and especially elected officials, they don't want to talk about anything and get no attention brought up to them because they know what you're going to say next when you get through talking about Wells. Well, elected person, appointed person, politician, what are you going to do for the streets, the water, the infrastructure? All these people run around killing each other because they're about to starve to death and trying to get some economic gain from their peers. They are not going to say anything about anything significant. You don't find it happening in the other states. Blacks are not ready to talk about it. They put their head in the sand and just hope it goes away. But they got O.L. Sharpton, though, and others talking about this without naming names. And that is upsetting a lot of the folks on the Gulf Coast area. And I see here they done file a pre-suit demanding regarding your defamation of certain people that were involved with him during this trip. And he didn't even mention their name, and he'd been sued by 2 major law firms in Pascagoula and one in Houston, Texas, because of he is defaming someone without calling their name. And they have Mississippi laws that will justify prosecuting this man. And they thought they was going to scare him. And he says, sue me. I'm welcoming And they don't want to do this. When they look at what's going on, they thought they were going to bluff him and he was going to turn into a coward, which he has never been. Whether he was right or wrong, he's not a coward. He is going to fight this thing and just beg a suit. So now when they see he didn't cover and go under cover, not acting scared, they're going to have to revisit this deal and say, we better not take this man to court because he might know something we have been concealing, and it would have to come out unless you get an attorney or two that would make a side deal with you like they did in that case in Texas with, I can't remember the name of Camilla or something like that. And you find that's what's happening right now. It's not good, man. Not good.
Well, Al certainly has an organization behind him to help him fight off the lawsuits that he may be receiving. Attorney Ben Crump is there with him. Our local president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, is there with him. And so he has resources that the average Black person does not have to defend himself. And as you say, he's not a coward. And he certainly, in my opinion, he does not move to the status of Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or those guys, or Stokely Carmichael, those guys that gave their life in this struggle, fighting for equality of Blacks. But he is a champion. And many white people in Mississippi and other parts of the country are very, very upset with the fact that he is called upon to do the eulogy of most prominent Black people and some Black people like Nolan Wells that nobody really knew, but the circumstance required him to come to Mississippi and do the eulogy.
Well, that's what we need. We need people to do that if you can't find a local person to do it. But those boys are not stupid at all. Folks like Sharpton and Attorney Crump just act like they have a few missing screws here and there, but those guys are very smart. A lot of people don't know, but if you check out the history of Al Sharpton, he is a real genius. Crump, the lawyer, now you can't just look at him and tell that he's a genius, but he is very smart. He is one of the strongest lawyers, Black lawyers, or I would say lawyers in this state or states in America. He is like Jesse Jackson used to be. When something happened, you called Jesse Jackson. Now,
you call Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton.
Now,
that's him right there with Jesse Jackson, with a little fat boy.
Al lost a lot of weight, it appears. From that picture there, he was a big guy as opposed to this guy right here.
That's right.
So I guess he got off of that Pick 5 and got off all of that soul food, and he lost a lot of weight.
Well, he decided that he wanted to live. I'm quite sure he had a kind of inner consciousness that said, man, I'm doing well now. I'm making a lot of money on national television. I'm getting unlimited funds from grants and stuff because I done helped a lot of white folks do certain things because they didn't had me to speak on their behalf. And I can just write a grant and get $200,000 or $300 4 or 5 times a year. And I got a good rent situation going. I've written books, and I just can't, look what they say, I just can't be rejected. And I'm going to tell you right now, a man like that knows how to hustle and do the things he needs to do to look out for himself. See, he is what you call a renewed man. He is a new man. Look how he changed. 300 plus pounds now, he probably weighs about 150. Smarter, younger, more interest. And I think he has a new friend in his life. So he's doing well.
He's doing well.
Yes.
Anytime you can get a new friend, you're doing well.
Of course.
Do you make many friends, Doc?
Not very many. My friends don't last long. When they talk to me at least a week or two, they start moving away because they say, I don't like your ideas. Say, you don't think right. And I like that, man, because when you start having people leave you because of what you think, when you tell them their faults in private, they want to get away from you. I like that. So that means I don't have a lot of people too long interfering in my life and causing what I call a lot of infrastructure to fall in the wrong place.
Now we are up against a commercial break. The time just flies. So we're going to do a commercial break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Mississippi. We know that you get your news on the national news from so many different places, but you don't get Mississippi news. And so we're going to focus on the health of the state of Mississippi when we come back. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Jackson, get ready for a brand new entertainment experience where fun, good vibes, and unforgettable memories all come together. Whether you're planning a date night, girls' night out, birthday parties, or you just want to have a good time, we're creating the place for you. 2659 Livingston Road, across from the Medical Mall, Snooty Fox. It's your destination for a good time.
But he can pick up the phone and have some of the top lawyers in the country.
Jackson, get ready for a brand new entertainment experience where fun, good vibes, and unforgettable memories all come together. Whether you're planning a date night, girls' night out, birthday parties, or you just want to have a good time, we're creating the place for you. 2659 Livingston Road, across from the Medical Mall, Snooty Fox. It's your destination for a good time.
In Mississippi, truckers not.
And we're back. And as I said, we're going to deal with the health of Mississippi. But before we get there, though, just to wrap up this first segment, I want to read the letter that the attorneys wrote to Mr. Al Sharpton. It starts out by saying, via personal service, Alfred Charles Sharpton Jr., a.k.a. Al Sharpton. Pre-suit demand regarding your defamation of Warren Hudson, Jack Patillo, and Morgan Seymour. Dear Mr. Sharpton, we represent Warren, Jax, and Morgan. This letter will serve as our only pre-suit demand regarding your defamatory statements made about these completely innocent young men. This letter should come as no surprise to you, since you recently welcomed a lawsuit against you, boasting at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. But I will say this on stage, I want them to sue me first. You also stated, I want to depose your son. If you sue the plaintiffs or depose, and let's go to civil court and any kind of court you want to go to, because you can't make this make sense. We're happy to grant your wish, the attorneys write, unless you comply with the demands set forth in this letter, we will imminently be filing suit against you. However, we are pleased that you too welcome dispositions. While we are more than ready for Warren, Jack, and Morgan to sit for their depositions and tell the truth under oath, we are most looking forward to your deposition. Smearing the reputation of innocent young men, mourning the loss of their friend to score cheap political points will prove far easier than explaining yourself under oath. Indeed, you will find dealing with us to be an altogether different experience than indulging in a slanderous rampage applauded by the fawning sycophants of the echo chamber of your inner circle. Now, that's a pretty strong letter that they wrote Al Sharpton.
Well, it doesn't mean a thing, because this is what they say also in the letter. In Cox and Plezix allege that while Sharpton did not directly name their clients, he was undoubtedly referring to Warren Hudson, Jack Patello, and Morgan Seymour during his appearances. He didn't mention their names. He just gave some information that there might have been some racist actions and tactics involved in the boy's disappearance. And then he mentioned down in the case about the phone and the keys were missing. And they had to go to the home of some of the folks late at night to get that information. And you don't hear a lot of facts that's showing and saying the real start. You read this in the case that some of Wells' folks got in a group and went and visited some of those homes, at least one of them, after midnight to demand the phone and the keys. And those folks produced them.
Wow.
Think about it.
Wow.
They don't want to mess with this case too much, man.
Well, we're going to keep you posted on the trial or the potential trial with Reverend Al Sharpton. Now we're going to move to Mississippi's. The 2026 Kids Count data profile shows Mississippi's economic well-being. Doc, these statistics are very alarming.
Share them to our listeners and viewers. They need to know what's going on in Mississippi.
Children in poverty. 28% of Mississippi's children live in poverty. We rank 49th in the country when it comes to children in poverty, Doc. Right here in the great state of Mississippi. Children whose parents lack secure employment. 34% of our children's parents lack secure employment.
That's 1/3 of the population of blacks and whites in this country. I mean, in this state. 1/3, 33%.
We got about 3 million people in the state. And so you're saying that greater than 1 million people in Mississippi are living in these conditions.
That's right. Children whose parents lack secure employment. Now, a lot of these people are working, but I know some, and I have a lot of relatives that have 2 and 3 part-time jobs, no benefits, and they have to work when they are sick. They work on weekends, and then a lot of them pray to be called on weekends and holidays so they can make a little extra. And the kids are usually at home by themselves or with the older child as the mother or the father, or they dump them off to grandma and great-grandparents and all that kind of mess. It's not good.
It's not good.
And Mississippi is not the only place, but keep on reading.
Well, we're skipped down a little bit to teens not in school and not working in our state. 10% of our teenagers are not in school and not working. I wonder, where are they, Doc?
Well, you call the police, they'll tell you. You call their parents, they'll tell you. You call the preachers and the corporate leaders, and especially the elected and appointed officials, they'll tell you. They are walking up and down the streets looking for this and that, trying to survive. That's where they are. They're engaging in illegal activities. And everybody know it. The preachers know it. The politicians know it. And especially the police. And they are making a small effort with the cameras to sort of zero in on some of these crime-infested areas around these apartments and then around these convenience stores and do some arresting, more arresting. But arresting, that 10% not going to do any good. That's putting them in paradise when you get them and put them in a situation where they can have a little running water in these jails, get 3 short meals together. They might not be very nutritious. Give them some clothes to wear, man, and they don't work now on the streets like they used to when they were in the prison. They sit there and look at a little TV, plan on how they're going to rob when they get out, if they get out. If they put them on bond now, they're going to be in jail usually 2 or 3 years. They'll be off the street, but when they get back, they're going to be worse. So you have to start working with them in the school system while they're getting that education or that miseducation and make sure they are in a position to graduate.
Doc, the economic health for Mississippi ranks 49th in the country. Doc, that's pretty bad.
That's real bad. And you know, I've been told, and you know it, and the history shows, and all the other stats. We don't have 50 states in the union, and we have 49 at the bottom. And Trump knows this. That's why he wants to get additional states. So he wants some more territory.
Like Canada, for example.
That's right.
He wants them to become the 51st state.
And he wants Iceland and some other places.
Trump.
Which is a good idea if he thinks he can get it.
Yeah,
I guarantee you.
I guarantee you, if he could get it. Now, Doc, in education, I was surprised that Mississippi has moved up in education. It's ranked 16th in the country now, and so that's an improvement.
A great improvement, and the deal is Mississippi has a lot of good educators. A lot of people say, well, some of the top educators leave the state. That's a very small percentage. Most of the people that get degrees in Mississippi have some very good professors at these colleges, at the so-called white and black colleges and universities. Most of those folks stay in this area, and those that in the teaching profession usually enjoy what they are doing. And if they can get half of the resources they need, they can produce some good results, and it shows.
Now, Doc, the report says that young children ages 3 and 4 that are not in school, 52% of those kids are not in school in the United States of America. Mississippi says only 47% of our 3 and 4 year old kids are not in school. So that makes Mississippi better than the national average in the USA.
Well, that's true. But the thing is, look at all those thousands that are not in school. What are they learning? Not very much. Most of them have little phones, and all they're doing is playing games, how to kill somebody, or listening to rap songs. I see them all the time.
Well, music has a tremendous influence on our children.
Most certainly.
And so we're going to continue to watch that. But let's continue with the report. 4th graders not proficient in reading. The USA, 66% are not proficient in reading. Mississippi says 68% of our 4th graders are not proficient. 8th graders not proficient in math. 76% of our 8th graders are not proficient in math. And we wonder how China is growing and putting out more engineers, and how India produces more engineers than we do here in America. 76% of our children are not proficient in math.
Well, that's because you don't teach math to people you don't want to learn math. It's just that simple. We call it miseducation. And a lot of these schools will go and say, well, we don't have a lot of people in math and special education and other things, because deliberately they didn't have the opportunity for the people to major in those areas, and didn't have scholarships to give them. I didn't want to do it. Then encourage them to get into areas where they have deficiencies in numbers. Any school system or any district should have enough sense and have enough mathematicians in the central office to look at their school population and project how many teachers they're going to need in math, reading, writing, technology, and other things, and then work with the school system they have and start working with the students that are doing well in those areas, starting in kindergarten, and channel them into those areas like special education, math, technology, and things like that. Give them a scholarship while they're in college. Say you come back after college, you're on the scholarship, give us 3 years, and we're going to help you. You're not going to have a loan. We're going to guarantee you a job. And when you get to this area, we're going to put you in the worst area we can find. We're going to help you get a loan for your house along with this job. And if you stay 5 years, we're going to give you a chance to go and get a master's degree in math, reading, or special education or administration and help you do that. We want you to stay in Mississippi because the cost of living is better in Mississippi for a Mississippi graduate than moving to California or Texas and paying 3 times as much for rent and have to hit those highways going to your little job down there somewhere in the ghetto.
It's a 2-hour drive to try to get to work in California.
I'm telling you.
If not more.
And just as bad in certain parts of Atlanta. It all depends on where you live. You try to get down to the ghetto in Atlanta and you live in Buckhead or some of those other areas, man, it's going to be 40 minutes to an hour and a half to get to work. And if you're working in the ghetto schools, you're not making any money, so you can't afford it.
Right. Now, Doc, high school students not graduating on time. 15% of Mississippi's high school students don't graduate on time. When do they graduate?
They don't ever graduate. But there's a remedy for that. They can solve that problem in anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Now, if you know a person is not going to graduate, you know you can't wait until they get to be a senior. You look at their grade scores, GPA, grade point average, starting in middle school. And if they have a tendency to have certain things like being in a position where they have poor attendance, they don't have good scores, you know you don't have no tutoring at your school, you know the child is moving from time to time to different relatives 3 and 4 times during the school year, the principals and the leaders and the so-called people that's supposed to prevent that ought to have programs to channel those young men and women out of the regular high school curriculum and put them in vocational, technical, and artificial intelligence programs and get them a credential in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and get them on out there on a job somewhere. And they don't have to worry about getting a high school diploma because some of these credentials from some of these programs is going to teach you air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and welding and other things. You can do that in 5, 6 months, truck driving and all kinds of things, and get a job that's going to make you more money than you would if you had a BS degree in sociology.
Oh, liberal arts.
Oh, man.
Doc, Mississippi ranks 16th in education. We applaud that and congratulate the state of Mississippi for moving up in that area. But now we move to health. Doc, Mississippi ranks 50 in health. That is dead last.
Dead last for sure, and it's going to be deadlier. Because if you want to have a thriving people, sir, you give them good health care before they are born, while the mom is pregnant, and up until the first 5 years of their life. You will have strong kids that's able to learn. You're going to make sure that they are fed properly. The mothers and fathers will be taken care of with health care that they can afford. That's why you need universal health care. So all of this is planned and designed because you know if you have a person with poor health, he's living in a poverty situation, and at the same time, he's definitely miseducated because you got a person teaching mathematics, they got a degree in entrepreneurship, they're not going to learn anything. They're not going to be competitive. They're ready to drop out of school in middle school. And I guarantee you, they're going to be so sick. They're going to have all kinds of medical needs. And even if they have a job or get one, they're not going to be able to go on a regular basis because they're going to be going to the emergency room. People don't like to look at that. So you can eliminate all of that. There's no lack of money for health care, for medicine, if you want to regulate it and fix it where you have similar situations in the European nation. Health care ought to be a legal thing for all citizens.
Now, Doc, it says that 38% of children ages 10 to 17 are overweight or obese. Now, Doc, as a boy growing up, I didn't see hardly ever a fat person.
I didn't either.
It's just when you go back and look at the Supremes and the Temptations and all of the groups that are out there, Doc, we didn't see any fat people.
And look at your church members, the folks that we had with us in high schools. When I first started to college in the 1960s, early 60s, you didn't have a lot of fat folks because folks worked, they ate better, and they had a chance to thrive. Now they eat anything that's all messed up with all kind of chemicals. And the current health secretary is saying that we can change this. And Kennedy, our health secretary, is very controversial because he is saying if you're on a TANF program, certain things you can't buy, candy and all these old sodas that's killing people. And poor people are fighting the man. And some of the state politicians say, let them buy anything they want with their TANF money. And that's not a good idea.
Now,
They need healthy food, and they need to regulate it because a lot of times if you let them do anything they want, they'll give those TANF funds and cards away for 50 cents on the dollar. I know a lot of people that's doing that today.
Well, you brought his name up, RFK, and Doc, he seems to be opposed to vaccinations throughout this country. And there are a lot of a new outbreak in the number of deaths from measles. And people are not being vaccinated. And RFK says that we shouldn't have vaccinated people during COVID, and we don't need to get all these shots.
Well, there's a reason behind that. They had another deal like this that I believe it happened in 1972, where the lady said, well, we ought to have free abortions in America. A lot of people thought that was the worst thing in the world. And this woman had the legislators to pass the Abortion Act, and millions of poor people and lower middle class people were killed every year, even though it is known that a lot of the rich folks had abortions too. But since they didn't have it in the public sector, they went to their private doctors, and a lot of those rich, nice girls and from those wonderful families had those abortions. It was not reported, and they finished school on time because you can get an abortion and be out 2 or 3 days and just take it easy for a week, going back to school the third day and lay low, and you're going to be fine.
Now, Doc, back in the day, since we're back there, if a young girl got pregnant, the family thought it was such a disgrace that they shipped her out of the country. They sent her up north somewhere.
That's right.
They didn't abort the baby, but they did send her away from the community.
That's what they did. And if they couldn't afford to send her away, some of my relatives sent some folks, as if those that were in the Delta, they were sent them down to Jackson or down on the coast if they had some relatives down there to take them.
What were they ashamed of, Doc?
Well, it's social pressure. It hurt the reputation of the family when you had your daughters getting pregnant before they got married. Now, they didn't talk too much about marriage during that time, but they wanted you to have a mate because shacking or living with your husband or wife unmarried was considered marriage. And all you had to do was move in with somebody. The woman would get this man's last name. They would have children, 5, 6, 10, or whatever. All of them had the same last name. But when you read the obituary, you find they were not married legally. But you've been fooled all that time. And nothing wrong with that.
Well, why does a person need a piece of paper to declare they married?
You don't need a piece of paper.
Why can't just two people just say they married?
Well, they should be able to do that, but this is a state issue that's dealing with economics. See, when you get married, you'd have to pay a fee to get your certificate or your marriage license. It's just like the government owning everything. For instance, when you buy a house, the house does not belong to you. It belongs to the state or the county that you have your home in. And if you think it's yours, just don't pay your taxes. Just don't pay your taxes for 3 years. You're going to lose that home. It's going to the state. Then they're going to sell it again and again and again. So you don't really own anything in America. We have been forced to believe that we do. You don't own your car. Just don't get a tag and get insurance in some of these states. They'll take that car. or put you in a position where you can't drive.
Can they take your wife from you if you didn't get the license?
Well, they don't want that because they don't want to feed her. They don't care whether you shack or not. What do they state care about that?
In the eyes of God, in your opinion, can a couple declare themselves united or married in his eyesight without the state approval?
They can. And if they are religious people and have some kind of code of conduct that's going to give them the energy they need and the faith to believe that they've done the right thing, and they stay loyal to each other, have children, and teach them the same thing, have a good conduct, have yourself in a position where you get the education and training you need, be nice and kind to everybody, of course. That's better than a lot of things that's legally required.
And of course, you can avoid all of the consequences of divorce.
That's right.
Divorce destroys more families from an economic and a social standard than any other thing. The most critical thing that a young man can do, and I used to tell these when I was speaking to young college students, though, you're going to graduate, you're going to get a good job, but the number one decision that you're going to make in life is who you're going to marry.
That's correct, 100%. Now, that is very, very valid. And that's why you have to investigate your potential mate, males and females. First thing you want to look at is how much money they owe. Ask them about their financial status. Do you have any loans? Were you raised by your mother and father or grandparents? Did you finish high school? Yes, I did. Where's your diploma? Did you finish college? Yes, I did. Where's that college degree? What about your health? Do you have cancer? And people say, that can't be no love like that. Man, if you do that and find out and all those things are positive, you tell that man or woman, now you're the one I want. Say, the Lord sent you to me. You marry that person. And the last question you're going to ask, though, what do you plan for us since we're in love for the next 10 to 15 years? Give me your scenario of how and what we're going to be doing.
Well, they don't ask any of them questions in the vows. They ask something about, will you obey, and for better or for worse, something like that. But they don't ask any questions about, do you have a high school diploma?
No, they don't, but they should. That's why you have so many separations and divorce. And the preacher that asks you that, no, you're not going to be faithful to that husband, because they're very preacher in most cases that ask you those kind of things in the marriage. He already had 2 or 3 divorces himself. And as a minister, I've married people. And I'm not going to talk about my married life, but I guarantee you, you ain't going to find too many perfect ministers that's married people these days that does not have at least 2 or 3 marriages.
Doc, we're running out of time. We only have a minute left. And so we want to deal with family and community. Now, Mississippi ranked, let me just say this again, Mississippi ranks number 50th when it comes to health. Family and community will rank 49. We're next to the very last, to the bottom. Children in single parent families, 46% of our children are in single parent families. You just can't hardly work it out from there, Doc. If you only got one economic engine in that family, one breadwinner in that family, you just can't hardly make it.
You can't make it. Now you can survive, but there's a difference in making it and surviving. Making it means that you're going to get there, have less resources, but your kid is going to be passing. He's likely to graduate, might not have an honor grade point average, but he can get out of high school. He might be smart enough and have the time to go and get a little trade somewhere at the junior college, or he might be able to join the National Guard and prosper in that area. But man, if you don't get that, you are dead sure to end up in jail, prison, or dead before you're 20 years of age.
And single moms are asked to do a lot. to raise these children. And we say 46% of these children are in single parent families, and 99% of that 46%, those families are headed by women.
That's a fact. And the men won't even give child support. Most of them that I know won't even honor the child by marrying the mother. And the woman usually just will not require that they do so, nor would they demand that they pay child support. They said, we worked out an agreement. He's going to give me what he can. And time she gets to the point where she can't make it, when her parents kick her out, she's going to go and get her one of those little subsidized apartments, and old Joe going to move in with her. And man, I guarantee you, he's in paradise then. He would marry her if he had the money to do it, because he wouldn't have to.
Oh, Joe.
That's right.
Now, Doc, children in families where the household head lacks a high school diploma, 12% of our children are in that situation. Children living in high poverty areas, 22% of our children live in high poverty areas. You can't hardly make it when 22% of your population is in high poverty areas, Doc.
But all that's by design. You think high poverty areas just show up unmade? Of course not. Politicians, appointed corporate leaders, and presidential governments on the national through the local level create those kind of environments, those poverty areas. They won't give the resources to the politicians in that area to build the streets, to give decent houses, pay to cut the utilities when they are too high. They don't do that. They design those communities so you can have those folks in a position where they can't become competitive. Now, people don't like to hear that, and that's why I get a lot of discouragement from folks, and they are telling me that I say things I shouldn't say. But when you look at the facts and know how to analyze the situation and know that everything has a history and it's usually involved man one way or the other, that all of these problems we mentioned could be eliminated, and Mississippi could be number 1, 2, 3, or 4 throughout the nation in all of those categories. Wow. If you had good leadership and people that believed in justice, equity, and democracy, as far as all the citizens are concerned. But it's not going to happen during our lifetime.
Poor people got to come together in Mississippi and make a change. Poor people. Doc has always advocated that blacks and poor whites got to build a coalition. We got to quit hating on each other and fighting on each other. We're in the same boat. We're struggling. We're last in so many different categories, and it affects blacks and whites. And so we want our Mississippi to rise. We want the South to rise again, but we want equity and parity in economics and health and education and all of these categories that we talked about here today. Now, it's been a difficult subject for us today, but sometimes we have to deal with our reality. We cannot solve the problem if we don't identify the problem, put the problem on the table, and then seek solutions to it. So as we go forward, we're going to be seeking solutions to all of these areas that we've talked about here today. Now, Doc, tell the people how they can get in touch with you if they want to get the real news.
Thank you. Well, it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. All you have to do is call it, pull that old phone out and dial 601-201-1957. That's 601-201-1957. Or email us at clu369@gmail.com. One more time, clu369@gmail.com. And we will talk with you and do whatever you wanted us to do after you've set it up, and we'll come and talk to you and give you what you need.
We are going to close the show today in honor of the late Curtis Nichols, a young man, a filmmaker here in Jackson, Mississippi. A picture of health was found. Apparently, he succumbed to a heart attack, and his funeral is going to be tomorrow. Now, we're going to have to deal with the issue of us losing so many people from our community that are productive and trying to make a difference. She put on the screen there a picture of young Curtis right there. Just an outstanding young man. And we also lost the guy here that was in the 5 Heartbeats. I forget his name, Doc, but he's there on that screen. So we're losing people every day. Dolly Parton, we lost her today. And, you know, Whitney Houston brought the song, you know, Bodyguard to reality and to prominence. But Dolly wrote the song, and Dolly passed away. And of course, I understand that the flag is going to be flown at half-mast for Dolly in recognition of her contributions as an icon in the state, in the USA. So we're going to have to deal with some of these issues and share with our folk what's going on in our community and why we're losing so many people, both young and old. Doc, any parting comments?
Well, one thing for certain, you live longer if you do 3 things. 1, get the proper education and training so you can get enough money, make enough money to eat well, and then exercise. Don't get overweight. I used to be overweight and I could barely make it. And for the last 15 years, I've been regulating my weight, eat better, sleep better, think better, walk better, and I guarantee you, I'm going to live another 15 to 25 years. I guarantee you.
The world can hardly wait. Doc, it's been great as always. We'll see you guys again on Friday evening, 5:30 for Doc and Sock. Y'all stay tuned until then. Good night.
Now, you know, a lot of folks